Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 9th episode of Season 2 of the Coffin Corner Podcast. I'm your host, KingNightAsp, and with me, as always, is my good friend, Richie. Richie, what's going on, dude?
Oh, living that post-week one, either sorrow from losses or riding high after victories, and unfortunately for me, it was mostly losses.
Well, your team won. I mean, it didn't look great.
My team won.
What's your team?
But in fantasy football, I suffered some close losses and some heartbreaking losses. And
mine weren't even close.
It's okay.
That's the heartbreaking part.
Well, the worst part was only one game out of like 7 leagues that I'm in. So that's super fun. But you're right. The Commanders won, which is, I mean, it's always nice. But yeah, we'll get into it later. But they did not win in a very good fashion.
Yeah, it was an interesting game to say the least. So.
Oh, for sure. But anytime two of my teams play, it always is, because regardless of the outcome, I'm happy.
I still remember going to Vegas to watch the Lions play the Commanders. That was a fun week. It was great for me.
That was a fun week.
But not so much for the Commanders.
That's all right.
And that was back when we both sucked, so it was kind of up in the air who was going to win that one. But
was that not when they were on the stretch of Stafford and like making the playoffs?
Maybe it was. Okay, so in my own head, they always lose. So.
No, that's fair. I feel the same way.
Well, speaking of surprises, that'll take us right into our top 5 for the week. And I wanted to talk about players that surprised you in week 1. And now, that could be good or bad. I left it open to either side. I don't know what you did because I haven't looked at yours yet. But I got a little mix of both here. So,
I did a mix as well because I looked at yours and I could tell that you had done a mix. So I also went with a mix.
All right. Well, I'm going to start off with a kind of a surprise, not a big surprise. Whatever you're doing, every time you do it, your face goes invisible on the screen.
Oh, weird.
Yeah. All right. So not a huge surprise to me, but the volume was the surprise to me. But that is Rams wide receiver Puka Nacua. I don't even know how to say his Nacua. There you go. He's
Nacua.
Such a surprise that I still have not fully figured out how to say his name. But I grabbed this guy in our Dynasty League to put on my practice squad because of the fact that I had heard both Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford say that he was going to have a huge part in the Rams offense this year. And I didn't realize exactly what that meant. But Puka got 15 targets and caught 10 of those passes for 119 yards in his first game as a rookie. And I don't even know if he was drafted. Was he a drafted rookie? I don't know this name.
I didn't even look him up, to be quite honest. Let's see. I believe he went to BYU. I remember hearing that.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Looks like 5th round pick. 5th round,
yep,
177.
5th round pick.
I mean, that's 5th round picks are well, think of all the quarterbacks that have been taken in the 5th round. You know, the 5th round's not a bad round, especially to get surprise players. And I think Puka's that guy. And when I was looking at his stats, because whenever I hear something about a receiver being big in our offense and he's a rookie, most of the time they're 5'8", 5'9", and they're guys you. If you follow this podcast, you know I don't really like short receivers because they don't have long, successful careers for the most part. He's 6'2". He is a big guy. And if you watched him on the field, he looks like a big guy. He looks like the prototypical big wide receiver. So I have really high hopes for this guy. I think, A, he has an awesome name. And B, in an offense that really only has Cooper Kupp, he's got a lot of room to grow. So I'm really excited about Puka.
Yeah, it's funny. Looking at Twitter and social media and everything, you'll see people that are like, "Whoa, I've been talking about Tua or Puka all off season, and we told you Puka." And I'm like, I listen to a lot of fantasy football radio. I don't remember hearing the name Puka Nacua at all.
Yeah, sure you did.
But
guys.
yeah, but no, he looked good, and it's an interesting thing to see what will happen with Cooper Kupp. Like if Kupp comes back from IR. Does that hurt Puka? Does Puka replace Kupp? Does Kupp miss the rest of the season? I mean, it's a lot could happen, but he looked fantastic out there, yeah. And we all know Stafford likes bigger receivers, and he also likes to find a favorite target. Once he finds a guy he likes, he just keeps throwing to him.
Oh, that is the one thing you can count on with Stafford. And the funniest part is he's always found that receiver that despite the other team knowing that he's going to get the ball that often, he still catches it. So things look good for him. And if Kupp comes back and they even cut his production in half, 5 catches for 50-something yards is still a very good receiver. So.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
It's looking good for him.
Absolutely. Well, my number one, or my first one, is also a receiver, but he was the opposite end of the spectrum. That was Kadarius Toney. Obviously, last Thursday against the Lions, he could not catch a football to save his life. He caught one pass for -1 yard. I think he had 5 targets somewhere around there, and I mean it was painful to watch. Now, the thing that surprised me was honestly that Mahomes just kept throwing to him.
Yeah,
I thought after the pass that ended up being a pick 6 because it bounced off his hands, I thought Mahomes would, or Nagy calling the plays, they'd steer away. But even in the second half, they kept throwing to him, and sure enough, he kept dropping everything. So I'm curious to see what happens on Sunday, if he's still getting thrown to, or if they get other guys involved and he kind of falls down the ladder. But yeah, that was man, it was painful to watch, but it was also pretty funny.
And that his output might not be the biggest surprise of the week from him, because they played Thursday, which means he had all weekend to watch football. Well, on Friday after the game, he was being trolled so hard on Twitter that he deleted his Twitter. Okay? That's not the surprising part. Sunday night, when the Cowboys were playing the Giants, he decided to try and troll the Giants from his Instagram account. The very thing he deleted his Twitter for. And I don't know why you are trolling anyone after the week you had. So that was the biggest surprise to me, is that you delete your Twitter because people are trolling you. And then you go to your Instagram to troll despite dropping like 4 passes last week. I don't know. I'm like, what is the? Are you a clown? Is Kadarius Toney a clown?
I kind of like that he went after the people that trolled him and then going after them because, the Giants got humiliated. It's not like he had a position of authority. It's, not so much that he was up on a high horse. It felt more like he was dragging them down to his level. Yeah, first off, you're going to troll professional athletes on social media anyways. Like, you deserve if they want to snap back at you. Like, just leave them alone. But
no, that's totally fine if he's getting trolled and he wants to snap back as people. But to snap back at the Giants as if you did anything in your loss, like, come on.
Well, I believe, I think the people trolling him were Giants fans, being like,
okay.
There's a reason we traded you and you're garbage and all that stuff. So it's like, hey, man, you want to go after their team and after they get beat up like that, like, I'm all for that. Like, it's fair play. If you're going to be like that on social media, someone else going to come back at you. But
I understand it.
Man, that was freaking. I can't believe. But hey, credit to Mahomes. He never lost faith. He kept giving him chances to catch a pass, and he never freaking did.
Yeah, just so bad. Speaking of bad and sad for me, bad and sad at the same time, and that's DeAndre Swift, the Eagles running back. I had very high hopes for that first game, and with Rashad Penny being a healthy scratch, I'm like, Swift's going to go crazy. Well, Swift wasn't even really the starter for the Eagles. It was Kenneth Gainwell. DeAndre Swift wound up with 1 carry for 3 yards, and 1 catch out of 2 targets for 0 yards. Literally did next to nothing for the Eagles in his first game. That really hurt me because he's not hurt.
Yeah, it hurt me too. Because I actually drafted him in his league as my 3rd running back. I still think he's very talented. The thing is, and it's funny because I was shocked on Sunday looking at his stats, but then I've heard this week that people talking about, well, the Eagles play on Thursday, so chances are they were resting him and Penny for Thursday and riding Gainwell, who incidentally is now going to miss tomorrow's game. So the only running backs they have tomorrow are Penny and Swift. I think Swift will be more involved tomorrow night. If that is the case. If he's not involved tomorrow night, then it just begs the question, why did they even trade for him?
Right. That's what I was thinking after week 1. I'm like, what are we doing here?
Yeah. I'm curious to see what happens tomorrow night, but yeah, if they just don't bother using him tomorrow, it's like, okay, so you just wasted a pick trading for a running back?
Yeah. That doesn't make a lot of sense. We shall see.
My number 2 is also a running back. I went with Jerome Ford from the Browns. He's the backup to Nick Chubb, the rookie. Mm-hmm. I was just surprised how much he was used. Granted, they had the game well in hand, so some of it was, garbage time. But he had like 15 carries to Chubb's 16. Like, it was...
Yeah, anytime you get into the double digits on carries as a halfback, you know that the team is looking at them as a contributor. So... That's pretty huge. Exactly.
And the Browns are used to having Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, so maybe there is going to be more of a tandem there. But that one was more just a usage surprise for Jerome Ford.
Yeah, that's I was kind of surprised when Dave picked him up to be one of his halfbacks for this season. I didn't even know the name, but here we are with 15 carries and 36 yards, so that might end up doing well for him. So.
Yeah, he might be a good complimentary back, or obviously if you have Nick Chubb, he's a great handcuff.
Yeah, for sure. Next up for me is a guy I really liked on the Patriots as a receiver, and I was really excited for him when he went to the Raiders, and I was so glad to see that this week. But that's Jacoby Myers. If he had ended up in the Lions, I'd have been stoked. I really like this receiver. He went 9 for 10. So targeted 10 times with 9 catches, 81 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He was going crazy in that game for the Raiders until he got hit with a cheap shot across the middle.
Leveled.
And got a concussion. So we don't know if he'll be playing this week or when he'll be back. But Jacoby Myers, I see big things for him opposite Devontae Adams for the Raiders. He looked like he was definitely the guy that Jimmy Garoppolo was looking for on every play, and that makes sense too because was Jimmy there when Jacoby was on the New England? I think Jacoby might be too young for Jimmy to have been there.
Yeah, I think he was too young. I don't think they played together, but I'll check on that. But yeah, I agree that he looked great. And that stupid cheap shot. Hopefully he won't miss any time, but even if he does, hopefully it's only one game. I saw today that he did not practice still because he's in concussion protocol. Mm-hmm. So hopefully he will be back soon.
I agree. I hope so. I'm really excited to see what he does this year because he was good. He was good on the Patriots. So I'm excited to see what happens.
And he played with bad quarterbacks. I don't even think he ever had Brady. I think he was never there during like the high Patriots offensive time. Speaking of the Patriots, I went with Mac Jones, quarterback for Mac Jones. He was the 3rd highest fantasy scoring quarterback this week in week 1. Granted, Joe Burrow did nothing, so that's one of the expected ones gone. But solid game against the Eagles, who had a great defense last year. Lost their coordinator, lost some players, so. Maybe their defense isn't as good this year, but he looked good out there. He not blowing people away. They still lost, but he played well, better than I remember him playing at all last year when he got benched.
So what cracks me up about this is that we were talking with our friend of the show, Dave, before he scored all those points. So he had what? Purdy, Mac Jones, and who's his third quarterback? I can't remember. But we're like, out of those three, I would definitely drop Mac Jones. And then Mac Jones goes out and has the third best fantasy day of the week.
Yeah.
Like, oh, well, this is why you don't always listen to us. He's still on Dave's team, so, maybe he's staying there. But
yeah, I'm curious to see if Mac Jones can solidify the job and be worth the first round pick they spent on him, because time's running out for a lot of the quarterbacks in that draft class. There were like 5 first round quarterbacks in that class, and so far only Trevor Lawrence is left standing. So
yep. Well, going off what you just said about Joe Burrow, he's actually my fourth one. Joe Burrow, Bengals quarterback, 14 of 31, so 45% completion for 82 yards with a 20.3 QBR. Absolutely horrid first week of the season for him.
Yeah, ridiculous.
I mean, he's basically doing what I was hoping that they wouldn't do, like they did last year, where they just start out absolutely terrible and then have to tear through the league the back half of the season like they did last year. So we'll see if they can pull it together this week, because that first week, not good. And I picked the Browns to beat the Bengals, but I did not expect that. So
yeah, that was Burrow missed all of training camp and preseason, and honestly, he was playing like somebody who hadn't played football in 2 months. So maybe it's just shaking off the rust. But a couple interesting stats that Kevin Stefanski, the Browns head coach, I believe is 5-1 against the Bengals in his coaching career, or might be 6-1 now. So yeah, it's that divisional opponent. The Browns know how to stop the Bengals, so we'll see if they can bounce back this week. Unfortunately, they're playing the Ravens, so they got another tough matchup this week.
Yep, it's gonna be interesting.
Yeah,
but I mean, when they're in the
absolutely.
division they're in, everything's gonna be tough for them. So
yeah, it's a very tough division. We talked about it in the offseason. The AFC North is I mean, they can all make the playoffs. The entire division's good. So.
Yep.
My number 4 is Tyler Algier, Falcons running back.
This is a good one.
I was more surprised. Again, it's like Jerome Ford. I was more surprised with how many touches he got, how many carries he got. They spent a first-round pick on Bijan Robinson. Bijan Robinson had that great catch and run for a touchdown, and then in the fourth quarter, it was all Algier getting like 1-yard touchdowns, and he had a bunch of carries and was definitely involved. And I mean, we know that Algier's good. He was good last year, but for them to have him that involved after spending a first-round pick on a running back, man, that was surprising.
But I agree it was surprising. But if you think about how much rushing Atlanta did last year compared to their passing, and it's just like,
yeah,
all right, gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. There's just too many rushing plays to go to one running back, or the majority of them going to one running back. So, I mean, it could be a 50-50 split.
And here's the thing, another fun stat. In that game, they passed to their running backs one more time than they did to all of their other receivers combined. So Atlanta is a running back driven team. So
yeah. Bijan Robinson had 6 targets. First round tight end Kyle Pitts had 3. First round wide receiver Drake London had 1.
Yeah.
So I mean, but that's Desmond Ridder. He's just dumping the ball off to running backs all. So, but yeah, Tyler Algier, he could be involved all season. So that's
that would if you managed to pull him in one of the late rounds, just hoping that he could do something behind Bijan, you have a smile on your face right now.
Absolutely.
So, my last one is more of a surprise based on what you did last week, and that is Isaiah Likely, the Ravens tight end. I think that you can go ahead and say that Mark Andrews is not.
You getting calling out his legal name, Marcus Andrews.
Yeah. Mark Andrews is not a. What do they call him? What do they call a quarterback that's only good? A system. He's not a system tight end. Because if it's the system, I would assume Isaiah Likely would have gotten more targets and more yards. Isaiah Likely filling in for Mark Andrews, who's a very good tight end. 1 for 1 for 4 yards. Only one target to Likely. When Mark Andrews is out there, he gets close to 10. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a late. I think Mark Andrews was announced out like Friday or Saturday, and in like the league where I have Travis Kelce, who obviously I need a tight end, and then there's a couple other leagues where my tight end's like Dalton Schultz. I took a chance on him. Everybody talked about how he played last year when Andrews was out and was involved in the offense, and I was like, okay, I'll pick him up and take a chance. And yeah, that was very disappointing. But you're right about the system, because they do have a completely new offense this year. New offensive coordinator, completely new system. So I'm curious to see what Mark Andrews does when he's back. Are they going to continue to target the wide receivers as much as they did? So
no.
But yeah, that was very disappointing. I like Isaiah Likely. I think he's very athletic and could be a talented tight end. But yeah, when you're sitting behind Mark Andrews, you're not going to get a chance.
I think
and then my last one.
I think you'll wind up like a lot of those really good Colts tight ends where you're like, if they went somewhere else, I bet they'd be really good, and just kind of sit like Mo Alley Cox, right? That guy is a beast.
Well, and that's the backups. The backups on great teams could probably start on bad teams. That's just there are just some teams that are super loaded. Well, my last one, I did cheat a little bit, but you did say players, so I went with 11 players. And my last one is actually the entire Cardinals defense. I watched the Cardinals-Commanders game, obviously, because I'm a Commanders and a Cardinals fan. I couldn't tell you the name of most of the players on that defense, but I was very surprised at how good they looked. Jonathan Gannon, obviously the Eagles defensive coordinator. I'm curious to see if he's good at scheming and making average players look great. Because they were flying to the ball, they were aggressive, sometimes overly aggressive, like Kaiser White. But I did not expect anything out of the Cardinals this year. And then after that game, I'm kind of thinking, well, maybe the defense will at least surprise.
So listening to the radio here in Phoenix, talking about it, all the praise is going to Nick Rollis, their defensive coordinator, right? He's the guy that schemed up their defense. He's running something that most people have never really seen. It's kind of like a 5-1-5. He only had one guy, Kaiser White, in the middle of the field, running 5 defensive backs for most of the game with 5 up front. So he is running a crazy defense that worked in week 1. And Nick Ross, very young defensive coordinator that a lot of people look highly upon. And you're starting to see exactly why. Getting what he can out of that team with, like you said, players you can't even name. And they were just swarming the ball the entire game.
They were
all over it.
They were playing. I mean, they hit hard. They were swarming the ball. Yeah, it was. I mean, obviously, our Commanders' offensive line's not great, and Sam Howell is, a 5th-round pick in his second start. So I don't think a lot of people are taking notice of how good the Cardinals' defense was. But when you watch them, you can see, that's a physical defense. I was really impressed, and that's why I had to put them all on here. I got to give them all credit because I can't name any of them. So
I think the most fun thing to watch for this week is that if the Arizona Cardinals defense can even do 1/3 of what the Dallas defense did to the New York Giants, who they're playing this week, then they're in a good spot. I would never have before the first week, I would never have given the Cardinals a chance to beat the Giants. But after what the Giants did against the Dallas Cowboys and the way the Cardinals defense played in week 1, it's going to be an interesting game against the Giants. So I'm with you. That was surprising considering the talent.
That's the thing I love about early season football is that right now the Giants at 0-1 after getting blown out 40-0 look like the worst team in the NFL. And that could be true. We don't know. Or the Cowboys could just be very good and the Giants got extremely unlucky. And then the Giants come into Arizona on Sunday and just destroy the Cardinals.
Steamroll the Cardinals, yeah.
Yes, or the Cardinals defense didn't just beat up on a bad Commanders offense, but are a very good defense, and at least keep the game close or pull out the upset. Like, I love early season football because we honestly don't know what teams are yet. Like, we think we do, but we don't completely know what's going to happen just yet. I mean, you look at the Bengals and Browns. Nobody saw Joe Burrow doing nothing coming. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wish I was going to that Cardinals game. It's like my parents are actually going because I'm going to the Cowboys game week 3, which there's no chance in hell the Cardinals are going to win. Yeah. But yeah, man, Sunday they very well could pull off a pretty awesome upset of the Giants. So
yeah, that'll be a fun one to watch.
All right, well, those are our most surprising players after week 1. Moving into news, obviously the big news this week is Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles on his 4th snap as a New York Jet.
4 plays is all it took for Aaron Rodgers to go down. And as much as we dog on Aaron Rodgers and me not liking him as a person, it's hard. You really can't say that he's not a good quarterback or a great quarterback. And for a quarterback, and I love great quarterback play, even if I don't like the person, right? So to have one of the best that ever played injured that way and possibly never playing again, another snap in the NFL if that's what he chooses, because at almost 40, tearing your Achilles tendon is kind of a big deal, right? So for him to go out like that just makes me really, really sad. Just simply for the fact that, like, he's one of the last old guard left in the NFL, right? And so
yeah,
we're at the point now where we are all into that next generation of good quarterbacks without any of the other ones left playing this season. Are there anyone left that are playing this season?
No, I was trying to think. I mean, Roethlisberger, Manning, Brady, Rodgers,
Ryan.
Matt Ryan. I guess Stafford to me is the last one.
Drew Brees.
A lot of people don't consider him part of that group, but I do.
Stafford's definitely in there, I'd say.
Yeah.
I don't even think about him because he was gone all last year. But holy crap, I can't wait to talk about week 1.
Rodgers did say today that he'll be back next season. He already said on Instagram he doesn't plan to retire. So, and I didn't think he would. There's no way he would let his career end like that. But I'm on the opposite side. I'm happy he's gone. I'm looking forward to a whole season with no one talking about Aaron Rodgers. Like, I can't wait.
Well, it's crazy to me that, like, 9/11, game in New York, he's running out on the field carrying the flag. You know, everything is set up for just a massive introduction to New York for Aaron Rodgers, and that's what happens. It's just sad. So
I mean, it's shocking. I am not saddened by it. I will admit it did not depress me one iota. And I'm so glad the Jets ended up winning an exciting game like that. The Jets deserve to win that game.
You want to know what does make me sad? The fact that Zach Wilson is now their starter again, and everybody everywhere is talking about who should the Jets get to start at quarterback. They're like, no one. Zach Wilson. They have someone to start at quarterback. Why are we even discussing this? Like, I even heard someone say,
I think people have just they've already given up on Zach Wilson.
They should trade for Matthew Stafford for this season. And I'm like, why would the Rams give up Matthew Stafford? What world are we living in here? And then where's Stafford going to go next year?
Convince Tom Brady to come out of retirement.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, okay. Tom Brady's just going to come out of retirement to play for the Jets. And then they started talking about
hilarious
practice squad quarterbacks that could start for the Jets. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but Zach Wilson is better than any of the practice squad quarterbacks that you are listing right now to start for the Jets. What is this? What are we being dumb right now? Zach Wilson
the narrative
is
around
not
Zach
bad.
Wilson is that he's a bust. But they've already decided he's a bust. That's the thing. Like the narrative, the media's already decided he's a bust. So
I did the same thing to Baker Mayfield.
I wasn't rooting for the Jets with Aaron Rodgers. Now I'm rooting for the Jets. I want Zach Wilson to succeed. That
was the one thing that came out of Aaron Rodgers getting injured is that I could go back to rooting for the Jets because I love the Jets. Like, I love Sauce. I love Keenan Williams. I like
Breece Hall looked amazing.
Breece Hall. I like what's his face, the wide receiver,
Garrett Wilson.
Garrett Wilson. I like Zach Wilson. So I don't know, man.
Just keep him away from your mom.
Yeah. Well, oh yeah, your mom, not his. It's like it's not gonna. Never mind.
Your mom, not his mom.
Yeah. Got it.
Yeah, but I think Zach Wilson's going to do just fine, but we shall see. Other injury: J.K. Dobbins also tore his Achilles and out for the season.
Hey, one
really sucks because that dude is always hurt.
Do you remember waiver wire pickups I told you to get last week? Remember when we talked about in our tri-tips 3 players that most leagues they're available, and I said, Gus Edwards, because odds are J.K. Dobbins will be hurt at least once at some point this season. I didn't mean to jinx him, but here we are. And if you picked up Gus Edwards after the podcast last week, you are in a good position. So it really sucks that J.K. Dobbins is hurt, mostly because that's the guy I have on my dynasty team, and my dynasty team halfbacks, James Robinson, J.K. Dobbins, Jonathan Taylor, all my big hitters are gone from my dynasty team. So now I'm starting.
How did Isaiah Pachenko work out for you last week?
Okay, I guess. So, it sucks.
It just sucks. I mean, that dude's just he like just missed a full season. What was it,
2 seasons ago?
He
was like hurt half the year last year.
Yeah,
hurt all this year.
It's so unfortunate. Deontay Johnson out multiple weeks. They didn't give an exact number. My guess is probably 2 or 3. It doesn't sound like it's
because
too severe.
he did pretty decent in game 1 before getting hurt. So.
Well, I mean, the Steelers themselves did terrible. We'll talk about that when we get into our recap.
yeah. But Deontay, he had 3 out of his 6 catches, 48 yards. He wasn't doing too bad. But
no, he was there. He was involved.
No.
But yeah, that was luckily they've still got Allen Robinson, who was their leading receiver. Saw that coming.
In other news, another one of my halfbacks is hurt. Austin Eckler.
Yes, Austin Eckler, which I haven't been able to. I know he didn't practice today, and they're saying he's day to day, and they'll know more by the weekend, and it's just. I don't know, man. It's so frustrating because he had a huge game on against Miami in week 1. And, unfortunately, this is exactly why the Chargers didn't want to pay him because, he's getting older and running backs start to wear down. And the whole, I don't like not knowing leading into the weekend because, like, Joshua Kelly, I mean, if Eckler goes down, Joshua Kelly is going to be fantastic.
Well,
got picked up in most leagues.
Well, I didn't pick him up. I picked up the other guy because that was another one I could have put in my surprises, and that's the rookie Kyren Williams.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Kyren Williams, 15 carries, double digits, 15 carries, 52 yards, 2 touchdowns. Like, I drafted him in the Dynasty League. Oh, yeah, he's 1 year in. But I mean, still, like, I was surprised at how much usage he had, even with Eckler playing most of the game and Joshua Kelly playing most of the game, and all of them having good stats.
Kyren Williams is on the Rams.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah. No, but yeah, well, you are right, though. Kyren Williams
I was thinking, okay,
Yeah, but, it's just something to monitor.
Man, I feel dumb now. Yeah, I keep getting the LA... When I was watching Red Zone last week, I was confused the entire time because the helmets and the colors of both LA teams look so similar.
Yeah, I mean, they're both blue and yellow, different shades.
But the jersey combinations they wore last week, they looked the exact same. And I think that's what confused me with this because I was like, yeah, that's embarrassing.
It's okay. You weren't wrong. Kyren Williams did get a lot of usage. We'll talk about that when we recap that game. We'll get there. Chris Jones back in Kansas City.
Before you said that, I was like, how did Josh Kelly, Kyren Williams, and Eckler get that many carries? Because I know they all had over 15. I'm like, that just doesn't make any sense. And then you're like, Kyrie Williams is on the Rams. Right.
I thought you were just excited to talk about another running back we didn't see coming.
No.
I did.
The confusion
I was
real.
like, yeah. And I was excited because I drafted Kyrie Williams in a lot of leagues because I don't think the Rams like Cam Akers very much. So I was happy to take Williams, and he paid out week 1. But anyways, yeah, Chris Jones back in Kansas City signed a 1-year deal. That's good. Glad he didn't do it before week 1.
So the Lions
didn't have to play him.
No.
Yes. This isn't really news, but I just wanted to add it. Chase Claypool should be inactive the rest of the season or cut. If you had not seen the compilation of plays on social media of him, quote unquote, blocking on Sunday, that dude is out there earning a paycheck for literally standing around. Pathetic.
Wow.
Just get him, just bench him, get him off the team. Ridiculous. Tariq Cohen, this is pretty cool. Tariq Cohen has missed 2 years of NFL action. He tore his ACL, MCL, and broke his tibia in 2021. And then before his comeback, tore his Achilles in a private workout, missed another year. And he signed to the Panthers practice squad. I just think that's a cool story. Happy for the guy.
That's cool because he was always a fun player to watch.
He was a little explosive kind of gadget running back, very short, but very fast. I don't know how fast he's going to be now after all those injuries, but just cool to see him be able to make a comeback. And then,
look at these stats. Let me just drop this real
Bucks
quick.
And Bills wide receiver Mike Williams passed away at 36, which he's a player I remember. He was never a huge name, but I remember Mike Williams, so I just wanted to give that
36, man. That's so young.
Yeah, it was a construction
That's
accident
tough.
too. Like, so unfortunate.
No. The thing about his family, for sure. That's crazy.
Yeah. But were you going to look at Tariq Cohen's stats?
Oh, yeah. I had brought them up because I just remembered
He was a
him
good
being
returner.
very, very involved in the Bears offense. And here's what I remember. He never had more than 450 yards rushing, which, he was never the starting running back. But in 2018 and 2019, 71 catches, 79 catches.
Yeah.
Massive catch machine. When I think of Lions like halfbacks that I really like that were not the starters, I think of Theo Riddick, the Riddick train, Mr. Catch. Terry Cohen was a lot like Theo Riddick for the Bears for at least those 4 years he played there. So I hope he gets the chance with the Panthers. That'd be really awesome to see because I liked him when he was on the Bears, even though I don't really like Bears that much.
He was a very exciting player to watch for sure. And yeah, hopefully he'll get a chance. I mean, the Panthers, besides Miles Sanders and Chuba Hubbard, I don't know who else they have. So, why not sign him to the active roster, let him return a couple kicks, see what happens. So
yeah, for sure. All right, so we'll go right into our week 1 Thursday night football foreplay. So I didn't have mine ready last week, so we'll just cover it again now. And I have this week's ready, so we'll have them ready for the current week going forward. But I wasn't able to do it, and because I wasn't able to do it, I completely forgot about us agreeing on the Sam Laporta anytime touchdown that we were both going to do.
Tisk.
So I didn't do that.
Tisk.
But I did do another foreplay, all anytime touchdown scores, and only got one of the 4. So that was fun. But for the actual foreplay that I did, thinking without forgetting that, I had Amon-Ra St. Brown anytime touchdown scorer. Got it. Marquez Valdez-Scantling 40-plus yards receiving. Got that. I think he had 48. And the last 2, if the last drive had a touchdown in it, a field goal, I would have got this one. Lions total points over 23.5. They scored 21. And then the worst one of all, Amon-Ra St. Brown over 6.5 catches. Amon-Ra St. Brown had 6 catches. So I was like a ball hair away from a massive win on my first foreplay because I think the odds on that for the normal $5 bet I make every Thursday, I think the payout was $180 and I missed it by like that much.
That would have been a nice way to start the season.
I'm telling you, dude. But I made we'll talk about it when we get to week 2's foreplay. The odds on this week's foreplay are even better. So you'll see it's looking spicy.
Nice. Yeah, mine I talked about last week. I had the Sam Laporta anytime touchdown. Unfortunately, he didn't get it. And then I had some super low risk bets just to round it out. Under 65.5, which it was. They hit 41. That was also an alt line. That
wasn't the actual over under.
No, that wasn't the actual over under. I picked that on purpose so that it would be easy for that game to go under 65.5.
Yeah.
And then I went Isaiah Pacheco 25 plus rushing yards. He had 23, so I missed that one, which whatever. And then the Lions plus 14.5. So that one obviously they won. But as long as it didn't get blown out by two scores.
That was an alt too.
No,
right?
no, that was an alt line.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm like, I don't remember that being
even
the
if
odds. That's
Sam
terrible.
Laporta. Yeah, no, I try to go alt lines when I do.
No, I love
instead
alt
of going
lines.
with. Yeah, I mean, even if Sam Laporta had caught that touchdown, I still wouldn't have got it because of Pacheco. But whatever.
I'm so proud of you right now.
Why?
You've said his name 3 times without putting an N in it. Every time you say Pachinko, I die a little inside.
Pacheco.
You said Pacheco 3 straight times, and I'm like, this is a change.
I try to switch it up every time.
Gotcha.
Like, how am I going to say it now? Isaiah Poncho, 25 plus rushing yards.
Dude, Poncho's a badass name.
I'm just going to call him Poncho from now on. All right, so let's dive into our week one review. We'll start, obviously, with Thursday Night Football. Lions, Chiefs. Lions won 21-20. I mean, this is your team, so I'll let you talk about it. I wrote down just one thought for each team, basically, but we can dive into more.
Defense. That's the biggest takeaway from this game. The offense played like crap. Not to complete crap, but when they had to pull their head out of their ass, they did. But for most of the game, they played badly, the offense. And I thought that the defense would give out by the fourth quarter because of how much they were on the field, but they never did. And they played one of the best defensive games I've seen from a Lions team in a long, long time, because this wasn't just... This is the type of defense you see the Lions play against bad teams. They look like this against bad teams. So for their defense to look like this against a good team was huge, especially with how bad the defense was last year. So they didn't get a single sack, yet somehow they were around Mahomes the entire game. Being held, mind you.
And that's with the right tackle lining up illegally the entire game.
Yeah. Right tackle lining up illegally the entire game, being held most of the game. Like, there was a lot of crap going on that it's really not worth talking about. But in the end, it all caught up to them. So the Lions won with really, really good defense. And I just, I couldn't be happier with what I saw out of the Lions defense. The offense, I feel like, first off, stop throwing to Marvin Jones. 6 targets, 2 catches. He's old. He's past his prime. I love
his first fumble, I believe.
First fumble of his entire career. Like, I love Marvin Jones, and I loved him the last time he was a Lion. He's too old for this game now. He's a good stopgap guy, but they got to play Khalif Raymond over Marvin Jones and stop making Marvin Jones the focus outside of Amon-Ra. So hopefully when we get Jameson Williams back, hopefully it'll be Amon-Ra, Jameson Williams, and Josh Reynolds. Those would be the 3 you talk about, because Josh Reynolds played amazing. St. Brown played amazing. I have high hopes for Jamo. So, yeah, that's the biggest thing I can take away from that. The other thing is that Sky Moore, where'd you go? Where were you? You didn't even have a catch. Kadarius Toney got thrown to plenty. He didn't do anything. And then, like, who's going to be the pass catcher on that team? Valdez Scantling only had 2 targets, 2 catches, 48 yards. I don't know why he didn't get targeted more, but he didn't. Rashee Rice had himself a good game as a rookie, but like, what is going on with that? What is going on with that offense? Because the rushing game was the same. Clyde Edwards-Helaire started the game rushing for the first like 3 series, and I'm like, isn't Pacheco your starting running back? Like, what? I don't know what was going on with that offense, but it was not working. So we'll see what happens with the Chiefs this week.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we talked about Kadarius Toney's drops. That was the biggest thing that stood out to me. But I think with Travis Kelce out, they just didn't know who to throw to. They had no idea who their number 1 target was going to be, so they kind of peppered it around. I think obviously Kelce, when he's healthy, will be just layered with targets. But as far as Valdez-Scantling, Sky Moore, Tony, Rashee Rice, I have no idea who's going to be the second most targeted on that team. And for the Lions, the biggest thing that stood out to me was David Montgomery. I thought he looked great. The Lions have a great offensive line, and Montgomery was running hard behind it. And I know you weren't a fan of the signing when they did it, but I mean, if he looks like that every week, that's a great ground game.
See, I hated Goff to start last season, but he played himself into my good graces. And David Montgomery, all the hate was just the fact that he was a Bear and he never did anything as a Bear, and we gave him all that money and let Jamal Williams go. So after the first game, David Montgomery's definitely on my good side, and I don't have anything bad to say about him now. So 21 carries, 74 yards is not a great yards per carry, but it was enough when it mattered, and he carried the team on his back. And then the other part is Gibbs. The rookies, Gibbs and Laporta. Just crazy good games from both of those rookies, and I feel like they're going to have a massive part of our offense this season. So everything.
Laporta looked awesome. I don't know why people thought Brock Wright was going to be the starting tight end for the Lions. I mean, it was obviously going to be Laporta, but yeah, he looked good.
He looked good. Sam Laporta. You go all the way back to March when we did our draft preview. Laporta was on one of my players to watch, and here we are. So,
and then your team got him. I also want to give a quick shout out to Pasta Man, who led your team in tackles with 6.
He always does. Like, it's funny because
future Lion Hall of Famer.
Pasta Man is, if you don't know Pasta Man, I say it all the time on this podcast, that's Alex Anzalone. His last name sounds like a pasta, so I call him Pasta Man. Not to mention he has
I think
long...
it's actually pronounced Anzalone, too.
And not to mention he has long, flowing, blonde locks coming out of his helmet, so it just looks like pasta coming out of his helmet. So anyways, everyone feel free to call Alex Anzalone Pasta Man. But every game he plays, he's our leading tackler. He's not a bad player. I just don't want him.
Sound logic.
Give me Jack Campbell and Malcolm Rodriguez, and Anzalone can come in as the third guy. That would make me happy. But yeah.
All right,
let's move on because I could talk about this game all week because we beat and ruined. By the way, the Chiefs' celebration of their Super Bowl title was that night, and we did, so. Felt good.
Hell of a win on national TV for the Chiefs, or for the Lions, sorry. All right, so Bengals-Browns, we talked about Joe Burrow. Browns won 24-3. Joe Burrow looked like a guy who hadn't played football in weeks. Rusty, terrible. Not to mention Myles Garrett was a beast, just in the backfield constantly. I don't know what his stat line was because I don't have it up right now. Let's see.
Who?
Myles Garrett. He only had 1 sack, but he had 4 quarterback hits. And then Zadarius Smith also had 4 quarterback hits. So, I mean, the Browns were up in Burrow's face all day.
Yep.
And the Browns look good. I mean, Deshaun Watson, I mean, it wasn't great. 16-29, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, 67 quarterback rating. But Nick Chubb had over 100 yards.
You look at his 2 highest targeted receivers, they caught 3 out of their 7 targets, both of them. So it's like, if they can start catching the balls thrown to them, then, and I don't know that they were catchable balls for those targets. So I don't know who's at fault here, but the passing game, as an owner of Amari Cooper in fantasy football, for how good the Browns were doing in that game, their receiving core did not get fantasy points out of it. Nick Chubb carried that offense.
All rushing to over 200 yards rushing as a team. I was glad to see Elijah Moore getting so involved. 7 targets, also had 2 carries. They traded for him. I liked Elijah Moore in the Jets.
I was saying another Jet that I loved when he was a Jet. So
I like him in Cleveland. I didn't realize he'd be that involved week 1, but hey, good for them. But yeah, good win for the Browns. I have no problem with the Bengals. I'm sure they'll be fine.
They did this last year. This is par for the course at this point with the Bengals.
They'll bounce back.
Yeah.
49ers, Steelers. 49ers destroyed them 30-7. Steelers didn't have a first down in the first half, I believe. I was checking the box score.
I think there was only one other game in the morning, and I think it was the Ravens game. Only one other game in the morning set that was a blowout like this one game was. The rest of them were all close and fun to watch. This game, the Steelers had no chance the entire game. And I'll tell you what, that Christian McCaffrey touchdown run was one of the prettiest, most beautiful runs I've ever seen. He was running down that field, and the second he looked like he was going to get tackled, he slowed down, let his blockers get in front of him again, and then just ran behind him for the touchdown. It was amazing. Christian McCaffrey is just an amazing player.
He is. I mean, he showed it, when he can stay healthy like he did last year, he is probably a top 3 running back in the NFL, if not number 1. He is super talented.
Also, another positive note, Brock Purdy looks good after that injury, coming back for a full game here in the first week. 19 out of 29 for 220 yards and 2 touchdowns. Brandon Ayuk looked like an absolute beast. Deebo Samuel is Deebo, but Brandon Ayuk, the guy I've been waiting from Arizona State to just break out and do something that made your jaw drop like he did at Arizona State. Those 2 touchdown catches were crazy good. So
yeah, he looks fantastic, and I hope he keeps it up, because that's the problem with Ayuk is he'll have a monster game and then he'll disappear. Yeah. So I want to see him keep it up all season. As far as the Steelers, I don't know what happened to preseason Kenny Pickett. I mean, he looked amazing in the preseason, and then in this game he was just terrible. 2 interceptions, 5 sacks. I mean, yeah, it was. And then Najee Harris, they only ran the ball 10 times because they were getting blown out right away. So I'm not going to fault Najee Harris for only getting 31 yards. It's just, yeah, I didn't see this coming. I think I picked the Steelers, actually. I thought they could pull off the upset, but damn, they did absolutely not. And there was a home game for Pittsburgh too. Like, they got blown out at home. Yeah, that's not something the Steelers franchise is used to.
Yeah, they're not. I mean, I remember we talked about this, and we were talking about when I was making my pick. I picked the 49ers despite the fact that, Mike Tomlin always finds a way. We talked about that last week. But
yeah,
despite everything that Mike Tomlin does, he cannot play the game. The players have to commit to it. So
he did not find a way on Sunday.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Buccaneers, Vikings. Buccaneers 2017 win over Minnesota.
Huge. Loved it.
I'm not surprised. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I picked the Bucs. The Vikings were 11-0 in one-score games last season. They got incredibly lucky, and now they're already 0-1 in one-score games this season. Like, the chickens were bound to come home to roost. The Vikings are not that good.
We both picked the Vikings in that game.
Did we? Damn, I should have picked the Bucs.
Yeah. But I mean, it doesn't surprise me. The Vikings were at home, and it was still a close game. So
it was. But
the thing is, like, at some point, having Mike Evans, Chris Godwin on your team is going to lead you to wins. And when Baker Mayfield can find both of those guys 11 times between the two of them, you're going to have a good day. Regardless of whether your running backs were able to play well or not. Rachaad White did not really impress in his first start. But Yeah, Baker Mayfield.
You know what I love too is that
led
Mike
that
Evans
team
was
to a
being
win.
drafted in like the 7th round
yeah.
of fantasy drafts.
Long time.
I took him as my 4th receiver in one league because I'm like, he's still here. I might as well. I don't know what people were thinking. I mean, the guy's had 1,000 yards receiving every season of his career. Like he's that good.
Yep.
And Baker Mayfield knows that, so he got him the ball. Good for Baker. Played a clean game. I'm always rooting for Baker. I just like his personality. Want him to succeed. For the Vikings, no Dalvin Cook and no run game. Alexander Mattison, 11 carries, 34 yards. Like that was, yeah, they really couldn't do it.
Kirk Cousins
Justin
threw his heart out. 344 yards, 2 touchdowns, a very good completion percentage. But even though Jordan Addison, the rookie, got his first touchdown this week, looked very good.
It's weird to me that they throw the ball 44 times in this close of a game. Like they threw the ball 44 times and ran the ball like 14.
This is a team that should be looking for a second running back.
Yeah, they should. Well, they should have just kept Dalvin Cook. I don't understand what the point of that was. But yeah, they definitely need a better outing from Madison. But again, I think the Vikings. I can't remember if I don't believe I picked them as a playoff team because I really don't believe in the Vikings this year. But
I think you picked the Lions. You picked the Lions to win the division and the Vikings as a wild card, and you picked the Lions to beat the Vikings in the first round of the playoffs.
That sounds
I remember completely correctly because I remember all your Lions picks. So I remember you picking them over the Vikings.
I mean, I know I picked them to win the division. I absolutely believe they're going to win the division. But yeah, we'll see. Panthers, Falcons. I mean, this I didn't watch this game. I had no reason to. Falcons won 24-10. You know, we talked about the Tyler Algier and Bijan Robinson, the fact that the Falcons just don't want to throw the football. They also apparently just don't want to use their first-round picks like Kyle Pitts and Drake London. But for the Panthers, the highlights that I did see, I feel bad for Bryce Young. I think Bryce Young is going to have a miserable season in Carolina. That team looks terrible.
Yeah, they're bad. And I didn't think they'd be this bad because they have a bunch of players on their team. But
they have a bunch of players.
Well, see, this is what I was about to say. The now, I'm going to keep saying this till it becomes a thing. They have names.
Yes.
Adam Thielen
they have
did
53
nothing.
People.
You know, Miles Sanders played a good game, but he didn't score. The biggest surprise to me on that team in general was Hayden Hurst. Obviously, Bryce Young's safety valve. Guy got targeted 7 times, 5 catches, 41 yards for a touchdown. If you were going to take anyone, and I would have said Jonathan Mingo because I picked him to have a good week this week. Targeted 5 times, 2 catches, 17 yards. It's week 1. Maybe it's an overreaction, but if I were to take anyone on this team right now, it would either be Miles Sanders or Hayden Hurst, and I wouldn't touch anything else right now.
Yeah, I agree. I drafted Miles Sanders in at least one league. He had a pretty good day. I think 13 fantasy points. Yeah, Hayden Hurst. Terrence Marshall, 6 targets, 2 catches. So, I mean, Bryce Young was throwing the ball to these guys, but they weren't catching it. Again, I didn't watch it, so I don't know why. Also, Adam Thielen, a name I remember, 2 targets. Didn't know he was on the Panthers, but I actually remember the name.
I actually dropped Adam Thielen in a league this week to pick up is it Kevin Bourne? The New England receiver.
Kendrick Bourne.
I'm like, sorry, Thielen. I know you're not doing anything this year. Which is funny because, like, 2 years ago, Thielen was like a top 5 round in the draft receiver. Thielen? Not even a guy. No. That's just a freaking free agency guy at this point.
Yeah, he's just getting too old. And I mean, they've got him. They've got DJ Chark, Terrence Marshall, Jonathan Mingo. I mean, they've got people. There's bodies there. Watching Bryce Young, I don't think the offensive line's very good. I just don't think he's going to have... He might have a couple good games, break off a run or something, but, man, he's just not going to have fun out there this season, in my opinion.
Yeah. Final note I have for this game. The score makes it sound like this was a blowout. But like I said, most games from the morning were close. The Falcons only made this a blowout with 14 points in the fourth quarter. So this was a close game most of the game. You
Both
can't
Tyler
fault,
Algier touchdowns.
Yeah, you can't fault Bryce Young for playing a close game, but they just ended up getting overpowered in that fourth quarter.
Yeah. Absolutely. Jaguars Colts 31-21. Jags won.
That was a fun game to watch.
It was. They should have won that game by more. I mean, they scored 14 in the fourth quarter. They were losing going into the fourth quarter, which is upsetting because I thought the Jaguars should be a lot better than
should
they
be
looked.
Just trouncing the Colts. There's the thing. The Colts actually is. I don't think Anthony Richardson. He looked good. Like I dogged on the Gardner Minshew. I dogged on Gardner Minshew not getting the nod over Anthony Richardson, but after week 1, seeing what Anthony Richardson could do in a full game of work in a game that mattered, I don't think he's gonna have as well. Let me take that back. I think he's gonna have a rough year. The Colts are not gonna win a lot of games, but Anthony Richardson is not gonna lose a bunch of games looking terrible. He's gonna lose a bunch of games looking like he did today, I think. So he 10 rushes, 40 yards, touchdown. He threw for 233 yards and a touchdown. He had an interception, but Anthony Richardson, as the quarterback leading that team, looked like a quarterback that could lead that team.
Which is good for me because I took Michael Pittman in a couple leagues, and he had a great day. 8 catches, 97 yards, and a touchdown. I was worried about Anthony Richardson being able to get him the ball. But, yeah, Richardson looked good. And I was also Calvin Ridley. I'm so happy he had a monster day. Glad to see him back after missing all last season and looking just as dynamic and explosive and dominant as before he left. 8 catches, 101 yards, and a touchdown. The one thing that stood out to me, though, is Christian Kirk. Just completely gone after last season.
I started him in our dynasty league, and he got me nothing.
Yeah, 3 targets, 1 catch, 9 yards. I mean, he was just not even being looked at. I hope that changes because I do like Christian Kirk. So we'll see if they can get him more involved.
I'd like to point out Zay Jones, the guy that I said I compared him to a bunch of receivers as far as targets last season and said he was not picked up in a bunch of leagues. Yep. Zay Jones, 7 targets, 5 catches, 55 yards, and a touchdown. Very good receiver. He might not be there anymore, but another one you can pick up in your leagues.
Well, and that's the thing is are they going to split the number 2 role between Kirk and Zay Jones, or is it just going to be Ridley and Jones and Kirk's out of luck?
Yeah, the question was really in the end was is it going to be Zay Jones or Christian Kirk that's the ones that's pushed? And it looks like it might be Christian Kirk. We'll see what happens in week 2, but after week 1, 7 targets for Zay, 3 for Christian. So who knows what's going on there?
Yeah, at least definitely worth picking up.
And final note I have just to say, it was good to see Tanks Bigsby with his first NFL touchdown.
Yes. I'm bummed that he fumbled. Hopefully that doesn't hurt him too much. Coaches hate rookies who fumble, but yeah, I like seeing him involved. Travis Etienne looked good too. I mean, the Jaguars, that's the thing. They really should have won this game walking away. But, yeah, Anthony Richardson kept the Colts in there. My other note was the fact that Anthony Richardson is going to be the Colts' leading rusher. If Jonathan Taylor doesn't come back, then Anthony Richardson will finish the year as their leading rusher. They're just going to – he's going to do it both.
I mean, if he builds enough of a resume in the first 4 games, even with Jonathan Taylor coming back, he might still beat him. So –
yeah, could be. He did get hurt in that game too, but they've said that he's fine and won't miss any time, so that's good news.
Yep.
Next game, Saints-Titans. Saints won 16-15 in a much closer game than I thought it would be.
One of the few that I got wrong this week.
I mean, I knew the Saints would win, but I thought they'd win easily. Brian Tannehill looked atrocious. 16-34, 190 yards, 3 interceptions.
Do you know the name that came to mind when you read those stats? Jake Delhomme. That's the first person I thought of.
Yeah, I'm curious how long he keeps that starting job if he continues to play like that, because they have 2 young quarterbacks on the roster with Malik Willis and
I would
Will
be happy
Levis,
to see Will Levis play. I've seen Malik Willis. He's not that good. But Will Levis, we don't know. So
Yeah, he's dealing with an injury, I believe. So I'm curious to see when he'll be healthy enough to play. But yeah, it's just terrible. Good to see DeAndre Hopkins still up and about those 7 catches, 65 yards. As far as the Saints, nothing really jumped out at me except Rashid Shaheed. Rashid Shaheed, obviously, 5 catches, 89 yards, and a touchdown. I have no idea who that guy is.
what about Michael Thomas? He's back.
Yeah, he's still healthy. He's
5 catches, 8 targets, 5
catches.
catches, 61 yards. I mean, it's not anything to write home about, but what happened to my camera? What the fuck?
If he's still playing in October, then I will be impressed. Because that's kind of his MO, is just get hurt, go away. I hope he stays healthy because, I mean, Olave and Thomas are a great combo.
Yeah, I was just happy to see him actually do well. Nothing super newsworthy besides the fact that he played, didn't get hurt, and he made a big contribution. So I was happy to see that.
Do you think Shaheed is going to be a part of the offense, or was this just a 1-week lucky thing?
I'd say the fact that one of his catches was half of his yards is a lucky thing. So
yeah.
Everyone that's picking him up like crazy in fantasy football, that's definitely a week 1 overreaction, in my opinion.
Yeah. Because, I always think back on, like, other week 1s in the past where, like, a person will have a huge game and then they disappear. And, like, people, like, I'm trying to remember, there was a Cowboys receiver years ago that caught, like, 3 touchdown passes in week 1, and everybody went bananas for him. Never heard from him again.
Yeah.
So I look at, like, Rashid Shaheed, and I'm like, is he going to stick around, or was that just, hey, I caught a 41-yard touchdown to pad my stats, and then I'm going to catch 2 passes for 20 yards the rest of the season? I don't know.
Well, see, okay, think of it in terms of your own team, right? Let's say De'Ami Brown, and I know that you like him, but let's say he caught 3 touchdowns in week 1. Would you go out and tell everyone to pick him up?
No.
Exactly. No. Like if Khalif Raymond of the Lions, our 4th receiver, had scored 3 touchdowns this week, I would not go and tell everyone to pick up Khalif Raymond because he's still our 4th receiver, and he's not. Even if he moved into Marvin Jones' spot, that still makes him the 3rd receiver, and he's not going to be catching more balls than Amon St. Brown and Josh Reynolds. So that's why I look at Shaheed is a guy that did a very good job in week 1, but his job is what it is. So I don't know.
I agree, but there are some people out there that if De'Ami Brown caught 3 touchdowns in week 1 would start talking about how he's going to catch 20 touchdowns this season. Like there are some people who have that fantastical imagination to them.
Speaking of De'Ami Brown, did he score? Did he catch anything?
He didn't do anything. I know. Well, our offense didn't do anything.
That's
what
that is
the next game, actually.
That's the next game.
So yeah. We will talk about that. Commanders, Cardinals. 2016 Commanders got a ugly win, but a win nonetheless. We talked about the Cardinals defense. They sacked Sam Howell 6 times. They gave the offense fits all game. I also want to harp on Eric Bieniemy's play calling because Brian Robinson ended up with 19 carries, but I'm pretty sure like 11 of them came in the second half and even the 4th quarter. He was calling plays like it was still Kansas City and he had Patrick Mahomes back there. And it just wasn't working. I mean, he needs to. I like the creative route running that we saw, but the play calling itself, it's like, dude, you've got to run the ball. Like Sam Howell is not Mahomes. You can't throw the ball 40 times a game. That's not what we should be doing.
No. No, you gotta run the ball with this team because you have 2 good halfbacks. You got to run the ball with this team to set up those passes.
Yeah,
especially with we've got quote unquote rookie quarterback.
Yeah, he's basically a rookie. Yeah.
So that's what you got to do with this team, and they didn't do that. He treated him like he was a 4-year starter, and that just did not work for them.
Well, not only that, but when you have our offensive line and you're calling these deep passes, which every play Howell was looking deep, that was the first read, which I like attacking, but our offensive line isn't good enough to hold up. And the Cardinals had some very good blitz schemes. They were bringing a lot of pressure. and that's why he got sacked 6 times. He wasn't able to stand back there and get rid of the ball quickly because he's looking downfield, and then all of a sudden, oh, I got a guy in my face. Mm-hmm. I mean, they still got the win. I liked Howell's toughness after getting cheap shotted in the first quarter. Played the rest of the game, didn't even miss a play. I like that toughness. The team responded to it. The defense was amazing, especially in the second half. They won that game in the second half going away. They put the game on their shoulders. They were in the backfield. It was beautiful. That's the pride of our team is that defensive line, and they, especially Montez Sweat. What did he end up with? 1.5 sacks, 1 quarterback hit. Yeah.
Tackles for last.
Yeah. Tackles for last.
Tackles for last.
Yeah, including forcing a fumble. I mean, he was a beast. And that's why Chase Young will walk after the season, and they'll pay Sweat and keep him around. Because I can't pay both. So, but yeah, as far as the Cardinals, I mean,
there's
the offense did
talk
nothing
about with the offense.
I will say the offense. There were some creative play calls in the first half. There was the one deep pass to Rondale Moore. I thought was I can't remember. There was a screen pass and then there was a deep pass, and both of them were very creative, like trickery type play calling, which I thought was interesting. But most of their offense was just check the ball down to Zach Ertz or hand the ball to James Conner. I mean, that was basically it. So
2 thoughts. You just reminded me of something, so I'm going to get it out before it's gone. You talk about trickery. Going back to that Lions-Chiefs games, the 4th down punt that they
fantastic.
They went for the freaking first down instead. That was classic Dan Campbell. I fucking love it. Dan Campbell
massive balls.
Dan Campbell, I used to yell at the screen so much when all our other coaches would do shit like that. But Dan Campbell does it so much that when it happens, I expect it at this point. And if it doesn't work, I just am mad at him because it didn't work. Not because he did it. Because so many times he does it and it works. He is the most gambling man. Riverboat Ron is Riverboat Ron. But Dan Campbell might have the biggest gambling addiction in his blood than any coach, because he just 4th down, we're on our own 20. Fuck it, let's go. You know.
Yeah, I think Dan Campbell's definitely taken Riverboat Ron's role as like the most aggressive, risk-taking coach in the NFL at this point.
And then the other thought was, I did not like this Cardinals offense. It reminds me of a Joe Lombardi offense for the Lions, where every fucking pass, no wonder Colt McCoy wasn't throwing it down the field. Their offense is built to throw the ball at the line of scrimmage and then maybe throw it 10 to 15 yards down the field. But every freaking play is at the line of scrimmage. I hate offenses like that. Throw the ball down the field. Yards after catch or breaking tackles to win offense. For winning offense works when you are a good team. It does not work when you have a bunch of scrubs on your team trying to win games. And this team does not have a lot of names, as I would say, on it. And those names are not doing anything at the line of scrimmage. That offense is terrible for this team, at least what you saw in week 1, and I hated everything about it. The defense was amazing. That offense, there is nothing to write home about that offense. It looked like every other offense that involves running the ball or screen passing behind the line of scrimmage or throwing the ball 2 yards past the line of scrimmage. That was it. The Cardinals offense looks terrible, and unless I see something different, it looks exactly like it did under Cliff Kingsbury. Because as much as Cliff Kingsbury wanted to pretend like he was this open the field, throw the ball down the field coach, his offense was at the line of scrimmage as well, and it didn't work. It sucked. And they had players on the team last year. So hopefully we see something better out of this offense, but if that's the way they're going to run this offense all season, it's bad. It'll be very bad.
Yep, I agree completely. Giants have a pretty good defensive line too, so I don't know if it's going to get much better this week, but we shall see. Next game, Ravens-Texans. Ravens won 25-9, which this was another game that at halftime they were only up 7-6, which I thought was surprising, but they ended up pulling away in the second half. Not really much to talk about it. The Texans are a rough team to watch. C.J. Stroud wasn't terrible, 28-44, 242 yards. Dameon Pierce, though, only 38 yards rushing on 11 carries. So, again, the Texans threw the ball a whole lot, even though it was a very close game in the first half. Robert Woods, 6 catches, 57 yards. Nico Collins, 6 catches, 80 yards. I was a little surprised to see Tank Dell only get 4 targets in this one. I thought he'd be more involved. But, it's only one game. And then for the Ravens, Zay Flowers, man, 10 targets, led the team. The next closest was 3. 9 catches, 78 yards. I mean, he was the only man Lamar Jackson saw.
Yeah, Odell Beckham in this game. I'm like, he's got to get the ball soon, right? The entire first half, he didn't have a catch or target.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
yeah, it was nuts.
How much money did you pay Odell Beckham to just not get thrown the ball? What?
He's just a distraction.
But Zay Flowers, that rookie, man, he just looks so good, and he's obviously Lamar Jackson's guy. And so that's good if you're a Zay Flowers owner in fantasy, because that guy is going to have a hell of a year. I mean, not only the 10 targets, but he had a couple of rushes as well. So he's very involved in that offense. Mark Andrews coming back will be interesting to see what happens to those numbers. But yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Eagles-Patriots. Eagles won 25-20. This one was another close game. Eagles got the win. We talked about DeAndre Swift. Kenneth Gainwell was the leading rusher, 14 carries, 54 yards. Swift had 1 carry, and he had 2 targets. So yeah, not involved at all. We talked about Mac Jones. Good day for him. 35 of 54, 316 yards, 3 touchdowns. Did throw a pick. And then Kendrick Bourne, you mentioned him earlier, 6 catches, 64 yards, 2 touchdowns, 11 targets. Again, led the team in targets. Next closest was 7. I thought Juju Smith-Schuster, he was targeted 7 times, only caught 4 passes. I thought he'd kind of be the number one, but Kendrick Bourne was the guy Mac Jones was looking to most.
But also tied for the most receptions on the team in the game with a guy that, when I look at what is he? He's 6 foot, 227 pounds. I thought he was a bruising halfback, but Ramondre Stevenson, 6 catches for 64 yards. So Ramondre, big part of the offense in that game.
They were just dumping it off to him.
Yeah, he was going. He was doing his thing. So
yeah,
Ezekiel. Important note, not to sit on it for too long, but Ezekiel Elliott with a fumble in his first game as a Patriot.
But he also led the team in rushing, technically.
Yeah, technically.
by 4 yards.
4 yards.
Yeah.
So.
Raiders, Broncos. Raiders snuck out a win, 17-16, in a pretty ugly game, to be perfectly honest. Jimmy Garoppolo looked good. 20-26, 200 yards, 2 touchdowns. Looked solid. We talked about Jacoby Myers being an absolute beast. 9 catches, 81 yards, 2 touchdowns. Devontae Adams, obviously still there. But the thing that strikes me in this game is the targets. Jacoby Myers, 10. Devontae Adams, 9. Josh Jacobs, 3. And then 4 guys with 1. So basically, if Jimmy Garoppolo was thrown back to pass, it was almost a 50-50 chance that he was going to Myers or Adams.
Is number 1 or is number 2?
Myers or Adams. Yeah. So not a lot of parity there. Just go to your 2 receivers.
The biggest thing is I was surprised that Michael Mayer, the rookie tight end, didn't get a single target in that game.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, Austin Hooper actually caught a pass for 20 yards. So.
Yeah,
surprising. But and the Broncos, the thing that kills me about this game for them was they lost this game because of a kicker that they traded for. Will Lutz missed a field goal and an extra point. So at the very least, you kick the extra point, you tie it. You make the field goal, you win it. So pretty ironic that they got rid of their kicker to trade for Sean Payton's old kicker, and then he cost them the game.
Also, I just want to point out that this name surprised me. Little Jordan Humphrey.
That's a hell of a fun. Every time I see that one.
Is that a legal name? Is Lil Jordan?
Lil Jordan.
Birth certificate? That's crazy.
Yeah, that is his actual name. Gotta love it. Packers, Bears. Packers 138-20. My biggest question about this one, obviously I watched this with my dad because he's a diehard Bears fan. Jordan Love is getting so much praise right now. He was 15-27, 245 yards, 3 touchdowns.
Go back and watch the touchdown passes. Every one of them were wide open.
Yep.
So
he didn't do anything.
Don't crown him after 1 week because you're playing the Bears defense, and no matter how many massive free agents they signed for the defense, that's still the Bears defense, and they were wide open. I mean, what was that guy from the Cardinals? That guy that the Cardinals gave 1 year to as a rookie, that guy could have thrown these touchdowns.
Josh Rosen?
Josh Rosen could have thrown these touchdowns, all right? So let's not get ahead of ourselves. I'm not going to say Jordan Love is bad, but I'm not going to say that looking at this game and saying he's the next Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre is skewed considering how bad that secondary looked against the Bears receivers. And then you look at who the Bears receivers are. And
Packers.
Oh, yeah, Packers receivers, sorry. But if you look at who the Packers receivers are versus that defense, their names.
Well, and Aaron Jones, I mean, took the game over in the second half, right away in the third quarter. I mean, we all saw that coming. But yeah, Love, I mean, I didn't see anything he did that made me stand up and say, like, oh, what a great throw or what a good play. It was a wide open tight end that fell down before he could score himself.
Hit that wide open receiver, which he should do. Congratulations.
Yeah. Yeah, this game was really telling. Bears had so much preseason hype. Justin Fields had so much preseason hype. And you talked about the Joe Lombardi screen pass offense. They did the exact same thing. No idea why. Targeted their new receiver, DJ Moore, only 2 times. I honestly, I don't think the Bears as an organization at this point know how to win. And I've seen it in the Commanders for years. I just think from the top down, there's just something about the people they hire, the players they find, they won't win. They just won't do it.
I think the only positive thing to talk about the Bears is Rashawn Johnson.
Yeah, he looked good.
He looked very good.
Yeah. But it wasn't garbage time. So I don't know if the Packers had backups in by then or not. I don't know. We had stopped watching the game by then. But yeah, Rashawn Johnson ran strong, caught 6 passes. I mean, I like me a rookie running back, especially in fantasy, because you never know if they're going to win you the championship in December when they're suddenly the starter. Mm-hmm. But as a whole, man, the Bears, that's a hype train that just derailed immediately after that game. They looked lost.
All right, let's talk about the game coaching of the week.
The rivalry game, of course.
Might be the game of the year at this point. It's definitely the leader for game of the year. Well,
at this point, yeah.
Well, don't say no. I know that there are 16 more weeks of games, but this game
17.
was... No. Well, there's 17, but there's only 16 more games. This game...
There's 17 more weeks of football.
There's only 16 more games per team. Doesn't matter if there's 17 more weeks. That's what I said. There's 16 more games. You said 16
weeks.
I said 16 games. At the second time.
To be fair, there's more than 16 games. There's 16 games per team. I'm just going to nitpick you.
Well, you can do that. I corrected myself. I'm happy with where I'm at. I'm not talking about Kyron Williams, the Charger, at this point. So,
Chargers.
Dolphins, Chargers. I know there's 16 more games per team, but this is easily in the running for one of the best games of the year, and it probably will be even by the end of the year. The Dolphins and the Chargers. Dolphins wins 36-34 in a game that came down to the absolute wire in a battle of 2 teams that were tearing it up and running up against each other. This is what we expected in the first week for a lot of these teams with a really big offenses. A lot of people would expect the Bengals to put up 30 points. They put up 3. These 2 teams brought it exactly like you thought they would. So, Just see Tua
fantastic.
Tagovailoa versus Justin Herbert, both of them going crazy. By the way, Tua, 466 yards of offense, or passing offense, mixed in with his 5 yards of rushing. But the biggest stat to me, I thought it was funny during the game when they're talking about it. Tua's now at 450 yards. I'm like, oh, that's huge. And then they're like, but nowhere near the record for Miami. And then I'm like, well, that makes sense. They had Dan Marino who threw for hundreds and hundreds of yards a game. I just thought that was hilarious that he throws for almost 500 yards and he's nowhere near the record for the Dolphins. But and
then Tyreek Hill, 215 yards receiving, 2 touchdowns. If Tyreek Hill stays healthy and Tua stays healthy, Tyreek Hill's going to have over 2,000 yards receiving this season.
Easily. It's crazy just how good Tyreek Hill can be on multiple teams for so many years. He is just so good.
Yep. And no one wanted him coming out of the draft.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Ridiculous. We talked about Austin Eckler, monster day, 117 yards and a touchdown, 4 catches, 47 yards. Keenan Allen still going, 6 catches, 76 yards. Yeah, this was a fun game, man. Fun offensive shootout. Love it every time. Watching Miami, I just keep thinking to myself, I hope Tua stays healthy. If he can stay healthy the whole season, Miami is going to be fun to watch.
So if you listen to the podcast, I'm a Lions fan. I live in Arizona, so I'm a Cardinals fan. I lived in San Diego for 6 years. I'm a massive Chargers fan as well. I am so tired of watching the Chargers play amazing games and always come out on the losing end of it. Always. Yep. People, if you were to ask anyone around the country to talk about the Chargers, they'll say that they're a good team. But even back to when they had Phillip Rivers, that team could always play you tough. And then they would always lose. They would somehow make the playoffs, and then they play that first playoff game, and it would be an amazing playoff game that the Chargers lost. I'm just still waiting for the day that they play a game like this where they are the winner. Because it does not matter that this might be a game of the year contender, because all that matters that at the end of the season, let's say 7 weeks from now, all we'll remember is that the Chargers lost to the Miami. We're not going to talk about how close it was. And that's how it is as a Lions fan, right? The Lions have been, the year they were 0-16, right? The year that they set the record for no wins. 10, I think it was 9 or 10 of those games were lost by a field goal. They were in every single game. They still lost them. They were in every single game. You know what people don't remember about the Lions being 0-16? Is that they were still a good team. Everyone would look at that team that was 0-16 and think they lost 48-10 every game. So I just want the Chargers to start winning these games. I don't know.
They got to learn how to close.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. Rams, Seahawks. Rams surprising, not just the upset, but a blowout upset, 30-13 over the Seahawks.
Seattle with the 12s watching the team that I said might be one of the worst in the NFL this year pull out the win in Seattle against the team that I would assume is going to be number 2 and a wild card in the NFC.
Stafford looked good after last year's struggle. I mean, he looked on point, 24-38, 334 yards.
And they didn't have
good
Kupp.
For him. Yeah.
Kupp wasn't even in the offense.
Puka Nacua and Tutu Atwell. Tutu Atwell, 6 catches, 119 yards. I mean, he was finding people. He doesn't need big name receivers. He just finds anybody he wants to.
That sounds like the Lions the entire time he was there. Megatron or insert name here. So
Seahawks struggled. Geno Smith, 16 of 26, 1 touchdown, 112 yards. Not much for them. I don't know if it's a sign of their season to come or it just didn't expect the Rams to be as good as the Rams actually were, but at least something worth watching for the Seahawks.
I'll tell you what I'm going to be watching. The Rams. Aaron Donald, by the way, that was so dumb.
Did you see that clip of Geno Smith screaming as Aaron Donald was blitzing him?
No.
No? Oh, man. So he was mic'd up, or the mic caught him, but he was dropped to pass, and Aaron Donald did a stunt and, like, spun around the center and into Geno Smith's line of sight, and Geno Smith goes, "Oh, my God," and just throws the ball away. It was, I mean, so freaking funny.
Well, the pregame for that Rams game, the pregame interviews, the freaking commentators were like, "This is the game where Aaron Donald introduces himself to the NFL," and I'm like, "What do you mean introduce? Everybody knows who Aaron Donald is. All we want to know is if he's not hurt anymore." And guess what? Aaron Donald is not hurt anymore.
Nope, he's perfectly fine.
He was a absolute beast in that game. So it's so funny to me. I hate the Rams. I hate them as a Cardinals fan, but I don't even like look at the Rams anymore as a NFC West team. I just look at them as Stafford and friends, and I'm like, the Rams won. Let's freaking go! I love it. I love this game.
Just rooting for Matty.
Yes.
Cowboys, Giants. I mean, blowout, 40-0 Cowboys.
There's
Giants
literally nothing you can say about this game that's really that important besides Daniel Jones and that first drive. The Giants looked like they looked like they had something going. And then what was it? I can't remember what happened. There were like a penalty and then the blocked field goal for a touchdown, and then the Giants just could not do anything on offense after that. It's like it's like that after the first drive, the Cowboys took the will of the Giants away, and that was just the absolute end of it. So
yeah, that exactly. I mean, it was just painful to watch. And we talked about the Giants coming to Arizona on Sunday. Curious to see which team shows up. Yeah. I personally think the Giants are going to be pissed and want revenge. Could be bad things for the Cardinals, but I am very curious to watch that game on Sunday.
Yep.
And then the last game of the week, Bills-Jets. Jets won 22-16. We talked about the Aaron Rodgers injury. I do love the narrative. The undrafted rookie punt returner returns a punt in overtime for a touchdown to win the game. That's pretty cool. That was really exciting. Josh Allen, man. 4 turnovers in that game, including several vintage Matthew Stafford arm punts.
Arm punts. I haven't heard that in a while.
Yes. It was literally 3rd and long, and he just threw the ball up.
Hold up. I want to say this. BMZR, it's good to see you, buddy. I'm glad you were able to catch us this morning. First week was crazy. We're about to finish up talking about the last game of the first week, but it's good to see you, buddy.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, but Josh Allen, man, I heard a crazy stat. In his last 19 games, he has 37 turnovers, which is bananas. Because you think of Josh Allen as one of the best quarterbacks in the AFC.
Josh Allen has 37 turnovers?
Yeah, that dude. Yeah, that is the stat I heard.
That's crazy.
He is very risky with the ball in his hands, but I think the Bills will be fine. Josh Allen's not going to turn the ball over that often.
I'm not worried about the Bills, just like I'm not worried about the Bengals. I'm happy to see that the Jets were able to play strong throughout the entire game, and still pull out a win after Aaron Rodgers went out after 4 plays. That is a good sign for this team. And Zach Wilson did not play bad. He threw an interception, but he played very well despite the circumstances. So I just don't understand why they're looking for another quarterback. First off, well, they're not.
They're not. The media says they should, because there are several quarterbacks that the media loves that played worse this week. But the media has already written off Zach Wilson. They don't care. But I love seeing Breece Hall back, 127 yards, including an 83-yarder. Should have been a touchdown, but he just got gassed. It was so unfortunate. That could have been a 96-yard touchdown, I think, or 94, but he just ran out of steam.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a fun. It was a fun game to end the week. Overtime.
Absolutely.
Exciting punt.
Especially a New York team winning on 9/11 Monday Night Football. That was pretty cool.
I agree.
Yeah, wild week 1. Now we're going to turn our attention to week 2. We've already gone about an hour and a half here, so maybe we'll try to get through this quick.
Yeah. This shouldn't take too long, but excuse me. Coffin Corner picks. I will take this pick spread every week. If you take out the bonus, my picks last week were 12-4. With the bonus, 13-4. So after week 1, I'm 13-4 on my picks. Richie, a lot of our different picks went my way. You had one that went your way, which is where you kept it a little closer than I would have liked. But Richie's picks were 10-7, so he got his bonus as well. 13-4 to 10-7. So that is where we stand as far as picks go, which means I gave myself a 3-game cushion to give up over the next 16 weeks. So we'll see what happens.
Or a lead to hold. You got to think positive.
I am a Lions fan and Cardinals fan, which means I cannot think positive. It's not in my blood. So, yeah, that's where we're at.
Well, do you want to do our Thursday night foreplay first?
Oh shit, I skipped that. So I just want to say this while we're talking about picks. I think that the person that is leading in the overall standings for picks should always be the one that picks first when we do our picks.
Okay.
That way the second person, I know you probably have your picks, but maybe you want to change your mind based on what the other person selects. I know I do that a lot. So if you are winning the overall picks, then you pick first, and then the other guy gets to make his selection second. How's that?
Oh, works for me.
All right, so let's go into the Thursday night foreplay. It's weird because now we're pulling our foreplays on a Wednesday, which means I'm going to do another foreplay tomorrow because I get my no sweat bet on Thursdays. They don't give it to you on Wednesday, so I have to make my no sweat bet tomorrow. So I'll have another foreplay, but this is my foreplay I picked tonight. I picked the first half spread for Minnesota at the plus 3.5. I feel like Minnesota's going to keep it close in the first half within a field goal or winning. We'll see. I picked another spread. I picked the game spread. I have the Eagles winning by a touchdown over the Vikings. So I have the Vikings keeping it close or winning in the first half, and then the Eagles just overtaking them in the second half.
Okay.
And then I have an A.J. Brown anytime touchdown, and I have a Jalen Hurts for 25-plus yards rushing. That is a plus, with a profit boost, that is a plus 1970.
Wow.
So for my $5, if I win this foreplay, I will get $185, I think. So,
damn. Nice.
I'm looking forward to tomorrow night to see what happens.
I went with a much less risky proposition. So I went with the Eagles over 13.5 first half points. I think they'll score 14 points in the first half. They'll want to get out to a fast start after the Patriots game, in my opinion. I went over 40.5 alternative total points. I believe the line is like 48, so I lowered that a little bit. I think it'll be a fairly high-scoring game between the Vikings and Eagles, like two good offenses. I went with the Justin Jefferson anytime touchdown, although I did have A.J. Brown was considered. I think they'll both score. And then I just went with the Eagles straight money line to win the game. So my odds are plus 365. Not nearly as risky as yours. I just wanted to win. I just want to win one.
Well, honestly, I didn't think that this was that risky, and then I saw the odds, and I threw the profit boost on there because I'm like, well, they're already high. I might as well add some more on there. So, we'll see what happens. And by the way, I've never won a foreplay, so I mean, it might as well make it harder than ever. So.
You didn't win one last season at all?
No, you only won one. You won two last year.
Yeah, I won two.
I've never won a foreplay, so we'll see what happens.
That's why you got to bet some easier stuff just to get that win done. Then get the monkey off.
Get it out of my system. Yeah,
exactly.
I want that win to be like, 10 times my money. That's what I'm looking for.
All right, well, let's dive on into our week 2 picks. So you You get the honor of picking first. First game up is Thursday Night Football. Vikings at Eagles. Eagles favored by 6.
What have
you bet 6.5?
I say
Is it
yeah.
6
So
or 6.5?
my game
It's
spread is
6.5.
currently 6.5 on what is that app? Not
I use
DraftKings, but the
FanDuel.
other one, FanDuel. FanDuel
Yeah,
6.
6.5.
6.5. So that's what I'm picking. Obviously, the Eagles.
Yeah, me too. Taking the Eagles. Not. I don't. The Vikings won't be terrible, but I don't think they're going to beat a team like the Eagles.
Like I said, I think they'll hang on in the first half and then lose like they did last week. Last week they were
Makes sense
close
to me.
with a bad team in the end. This week they'll play it close and then lose to a good team. That's how I think. So
Absolutely agree. All right, next game up: Seahawks at Lions. Lions are favored by 5.5.
what? Jeez,
Yeah.
I hate this one because I want
You
to
don't
be
wanna pick your
right,
team.
but I don't want to pick my team. Listen, the Lions are at home, and the Seahawks didn't play great last week. I'm gonna just continue to sit here and slap my hands against the wood of my desk, but I'm gonna pick the Lions.
Lions. All right. Well, I am going to pick the Lions with no hesitation because
No, that's fine. Me,
Yeah.
me on the other hand,
I know.
as the most
I know.
superstitious person in the world, picking the Lions is just me saying they're going to lose now. So we'll see what happens.
We'll see. What you should do then is bet money on the Seahawks to win. So that way, if the Lions do upset you and lose, you'll win
You
money.
won't be upset? All right. You want to talk about this game more in depth for 10 seconds? I got to be right back.
Yes. Next one: Giants at Cardinals. Giants favored by 5.5. Excuse me. We talked about the Giants getting embarrassed on Sunday Night Football and not really knowing which team is going to show up. That's the beauty of week 2 is we don't know if the Giants are as bad as they looked or if it was just a combination of rain and the Cowboys defense being very talented and them they got 2, I believe was a blocked field goal and a pick 6. So I mean they got a whole quick, which may have just sucked the life out of them. So are they coming to Phoenix looking for revenge, or are they going to run into a Cardinals defense that is better than anybody expected? So should be really interesting. Giants do have a good defense, so if they play well, I think they'll be able to do to the Cardinals what the Commanders' defense did to the Cardinals, which was completely shut them down. The Cardinals' only touchdown came on defense, by the way. We forgot to mention that when we talked about the game. It was 20-16, but the Cardinals' offense did not score a touchdown. So not as close as the final score ended up looking. It was a pick 6 that Sam Howell threw. So, and the Cardinals, the offense, we know they said they're starting Josh Dobbs again. He's nothing terrible. So their offense isn't going to do anything. Is the defense going to be able to shut down the Giants? That's the big question. I think so. The Eagles, Jonathan Gannon was the Eagles defensive coordinator and played against the Giants twice a season. So, I mean, he knows the Giants. I think this could be closer than 5.5. First off, is all I'll say. But
5.5 seems a little high for this game, but I will still pick the Giants.
Oh yeah, I'm going to go with the Giants too.
Like I said,
it's actually 6 on FanDuel now.
I think I said last week that I will pick against the Cardinals until they prove me wrong. They tried really hard last week.
They did.
But as you said, their offense did not score a touchdown. Their offense looks absolutely terrible, and it's the defense carrying on them. And if they cannot score an offense against the Giants, then they're probably not going to win. So I'm still taking the Giants in this one.
I'm also taking the Giants, but I actually just placed a bet of the Cardinals because it's +6 now on FanDuel. So I placed a bet Cardinals to cover +6 and the under of 39.5. I think this is going to be a low-scoring game because the Cardinals can't score shit.
Yeah, even if the Giants decide to score a bunch of points.
Yeah, the Giants can score
under
30 points. The Cardinals will score 3 points. So but see, the thing is, I like the Cardinals defense. I think this is going to be like a 10-7 game. This is just going to be an ugly game. But but I still think the Giants win. I can't pick the Cardinals unless the defense scores 3 touchdowns. The offense isn't scoring anything. So, yeah, I can't pick the Cardinals. Packers, Falcons. Packers favored by 1.5.
Yeah, it's crazy that after the Falcons, they won last week.
They won.
The Packers, who only won because the Bears could not cover a person on defense to save their lives. I'm picking the Falcons in this one. At home.
Okay.
I mean, the line is that close because it's almost a toss. And the Falcons played better, I think, last week than the Packers did. So I'll take the Falcons in an upset at home.
I like it. I'll stick with the Packers. If Aaron Jones doesn't play, it'll be a rougher. But I think AJ Dillon's still a good running back. The Falcons are so one-dimensional. If the Packers decide just to stop the run, can Desmond Ridder beat them? I don't think he can.
Here's the thing about the Packers defense. I think that their secondary and linebackers are better than their defensive line. So a rushing attack against the Packers defense will do a lot better than if they were trying to pass the ball constantly.
But if they put 7 guys in the box, I mean, that's just a numbers game. They'll just stuff every hole.
We shall see.
Yeah, we shall. Raiders, Bills. Bills favored by 9.5, which is high to me.
Yeah. That is very high against the Raiders, who won last week. Again, right?
Yeah.
So, the Bills lost, and they're favored by 9.5.
Yeah. That's what I mean.
I'll take the Raiders to cover the spread and the Bills to win the game.
I did the. I agree. I think the Raiders cover that spread. That's a little high. I know it's in Buffalo, but still. But yeah, I'm gonna take the Bills too. I think the Bills win the game.
There's no way the Raiders.
That's a crazy spread.
By 10 or more.
Yeah. All right. Next game is Ravens Bengals. Bengals at home favored by 3.5.
Against the team that won last week. Like,
yes.
What are these odds? They're fucking crazy to me. I mean, at least it's close. I think the Bengals are terrible to begin the season, so I'm just going to take the Ravens again.
Okay. Honestly, this one is damn near a toss-up to me, but to be different, I will take the Bengals. I hope the Bengals can bounce back after that ridiculous performance. But either team, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if the Ravens win. I just, got to be different. So this is a good one to pick different.
Gotcha.
Chargers, Titans. Chargers favored by 3.
Who's favored by 3?
Chargers favored by 3 over the Titans.
Well, I picked the Titans last week, and they completely just shit the bed. So I'm taking the Chargers.
Yeah, I'm taking the Chargers, and I'm also surprised at that low of a line. After the Chargers just went toe-to-toe with the Dolphins, they really think that they can't beat the Titans by more than 3 points. Weird.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Yeah, I'm going Chargers as well. I think the Chargers win that game handedly. Bears, Buccaneers. Buccaneers favored by 2.5.
So I'm trying to fill in these fantasy sleepers while doing this. So I'll do that when we get there. Bears at Bucks. Bucks favored by 2.5. That Bears defense gets shredded by Baker Mayfield. I feel like I would take the Buccaneers on that spread and the Buccaneers in general.
All right. Yeah, that's another one that I look at that line.
This would never be my lock. Never. Because I could see the Bears beating the Buccaneers.
Yeah, that's the thing is the Bears, I mean, they very well could have just shit the bed against the Packers because it's the Packers and they were scared of their rival. And then they all of a sudden go to Tampa Bay and light them up. I don't know. I think the Bucs win. I watched the Bears. They just did not look like a team that is going to win anything. I don't know, but I'm going with the Bucs. because I have more faith in Baker Mayfield at this point than I do the Bears' offensive play callers. It's not to me. It's not even just a Justin Fields thing. Just Baker Mayfield and Justin Fields combined together. They threw the ball at the line of scrimmage the entire game. Like, if they don't believe Justin Fields can throw the ball deep, why should we? Yeah, ridiculous. But yeah, I'm going with the Bucs too. Chiefs at Jaguars. Chiefs favored by 3.5.
I expected more out of the Jaguars last week, and they did not meet expectations. I feel like with the former Super Bowl champions losing to the Lions last week, they'll have a lot more to prove this week. And yeah, I'm going to pick the Chiefs to beat the Jags. And I think the Jags, who have a lot to prove, are still going to wind up 0-2. But no, Jags won last week, right?
Yeah, they beat the Colts last week.
So I think the Jags will go to 1-1. I think this game will be a lot closer. I think the Jags beat that spread of 3.5. I think they lose by 3. But we'll see.
All right. Yeah, I think this ought to be a fun game to watch. These two offenses, kind of like the Miami Chargers game was. This should be pretty high scoring. I do believe I'm going with the Chiefs as well. I think the Chiefs. I can't imagine a world where the Chiefs start 0-2. That would be bananas to me. I think the Chiefs will pull out a win here, but this should be a high scoring game. What is the over under on this game? 51.5. Yeah, that's got to be the highest of the week. Yeah, absolutely the highest of the week. I think this will be a really fun, explosive offensive game. But I'm also going with the Chiefs. All right, Colts at Texans. Colts favored by 1. Like, that's basically even money. Like, what? Why? How do you even have 1 favored? If you ended in a tie? Like, what a ridiculous line. But yeah, Colts favored by 1.
I mean, I guess they have love for Richardson after what he did in the first week.
Oh no, I'm not. I just think favoring anybody by 1, everybody wins by at least 1 point. So if 1 is the line, it's just saying they're gonna win. That you might as well that's just so weird.
You might as well just not have a line.
Like right now, you can pick the Colts to win by 1, minus 110, or you can pick the Colts to win minus 126. Like, why would you bet the money line?
Okay, so I'm going to go for the upset then.
Oh, you're going to go with the Texans.
I'm going to go with the Texans simply because Anthony Richardson got a little rattled in that last game, and even though I think the Colts overall played better than the Texans in week 1, I want to think logically about it was just being week 1 and there's a long season and see what happens. So I'll take the Texans.
All right. Let's see here. I'm going to pick the Colts for now. I might go back and change it, depending on how many other different we end up with.
How many do we have different now?
This will be our 3rd different game.
Okay.
So, I do think Anthony Richardson looked explosive. This is such a toss-up. The thing to me, the Texans are the home team, and I like DeMeco Ryans the head coach. So I feel like the Texans will win this game, but I'm happy picking different if we don't end up with any other difference. So we shall see.
All right.
49ers at Rams. 49ers favored by 7.5.
7.5 against the Rams. I want to pick the Rams, but that would be very irresponsible of me. I'm going to take the 49ers.
If you pick the Rams and they win, I'll give you 2 points for this one.
Okay, give me the Rams then. I'll take the Rams. I think the Rams are way better than I thought they were going to be this season.
I agree. I think the Rams are better than we thought. Make sure the 49ers.
Make sure you put some note in the notes there that you're giving me times 2 on that, because I was pleasantly surprised and amazed by what the Rams did in Week 1 against Seattle in Seattle. It's crazy. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Rams are much better than we thought they'd be, but I can't go against the 49ers. Just look too dominant on both sides of the ball.
How many points do I get with a double if I make that my confidence pick? Do I get 4 points?
No. I tell you what, I will let you get 4 points, but if the Rams lose, you lose 2 points.
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
No,
Then we're going to double the loss, too. If we're doubling the double, we got to double the loss. But
I'm okay. Thank you.
All right. Jets at Cowboys. Cowboys favored by 9.5.
That's such a giant line. I'll take the Jets on the spread there, but I'll still take the Cowboys to win it at home.
I don't think the Jets are going to be as bad as everybody thinks they are without Aaron Rodgers, but going against the Cowboys after what they just did, and it's in Dallas, sorry, their Cowboys are going to win.
Yeah.
Commanders at Broncos. Broncos favored by 3.5.
Commanders at Broncos. Wow. So apparently we have 4 different, only because I was tempted by the 2 times points.
Yes. I seduced you into picking the Rams.
Yeah. I think the Broncos actually played well despite... I said they'd need to prove it to me before I pick them, but seeing what the Commanders played against the terrible Cardinals, I'm going to take the Broncos.
Yeah, I'm taking the Broncos. I wasn't even a thought in my mind. I think the Broncos are a good team. They lost bad luck to the Raiders because of the kicker. I think they'll win that game in Mile High as well.
See,
Commanders just...
I disagree.
Also,
I don't have any proof to me to say that the Broncos are a good team. It's just they're a team that played a good team close, and the Commanders played a bad team close. So I'll take the Broncos over the Commanders.
Either way, I think the Commanders... interesting stat, too. Commanders have not started 2-0 since 2011. 12 years since they've been able to start a season 2-0, and it ain't happening this year.
Mm-hmm.
So, Dolphins at Patriots. Dolphins favored by 3.
This week, Mac Jones looks like Daniel Jones, and the Dolphins win.
Okay. Agreed. I do like Bill Belichick. I think this game will be close, hence the 3 line. I think it's pretty fair, but Miami's still going to win this game.
Yep. No question for me.
And then Saints at Panthers. Saints favored by 3.
We talked a lot about the Panthers game this week and how they just do not have any identity on offense. The Saints, they have something. They're working with something. So I'm going to take the Saints over the Panthers.
Same. The Saints have talent. So that's the difference in my opinion. So I'm going with the Saints. And then last one, Browns at Steelers. Browns favored by 2.5.
Browns at Steelers. I'm going to take the Browns simply because of how the Steelers played in week 1. But I could see this one going either way.
Yeah, I think this is the Steelers are a lot like the Giants to me. They looked absolutely lost in week 1. I think they're better than that. I think the Steelers will bounce back. It's another home game. I guess they start the season 2 weeks at home. But I think the Browns look great. I think the Browns will win this game. I think the Steelers will put up a better fight than they did, but I still think the Browns will win. So, and that gives us 4 different. So I am going to change my Colts to the Texans because it's just 2 up in the air. There's no reason to risk it to try to gain a leg up. So I'll just go with the Texans. All right, there we go. So we got 3 different, and you have the chance at a bonus. If the Rams win, you just get a free bonus.
I'm down with the free bonus.
And then as far as our locks, which is another bonus point, which game is going to be your lock?
All right. I'm sorry. I'm trying to count like what this guy's ranked was, as far as receiver for our next segment. I'm trying to fill in the shit as we go.
Do his homework in class, I see.
I am totally doing homework in class because I totally forgot to fill this in before we actually started the podcast. But
well, I'll do mine then while you're filling that out. Let me go through the games and I'll find my lock. Boy, there's some crazy lines in this week. I'm just gonna make the easy call. I'm going with the Cowboys over the Jets. I mean, if Zach Wilson goes into Dallas and beats the Cowboys, it will be the story of the season. So I'm just going with the Cowboys to beat the Jets is my lock of the week.
Okay. This will be... Damn.
Now, you can pick the same game. There's no rule against that.
I know, but... I'm just... It's tough. It's so tough. I'm gonna take the Giants over the Cardinals as my lock.
Okay, that's a bold pick. I mean, didn't we talk about earlier that the Cardinals
could
pull out the upset?
Yeah, I don't mind like jinxing myself to give the Cardinals a win to lose a point because I like that. Yeah. I win in the end, right? Like
it's like I said, bet money on the opponent. I've bet money on the Broncos this week. If the Commanders win, I'll super be happy, and if they lose, I make some money. So I like it. All right, so last segment, we did this last season. We forgot to do it last week, but fantasy sleepers this week, guys that aren't ranked at the top of their position but still could put up a good showing. I'll go first while you finish up. Quarterback, I'm going to go with Deshaun Watson. He's the 15th ranked quarterback. Played very well against the Bengals, going against the Steelers on Monday Night Football. I think the Steelers' offense will be better. I think this will be a close game. It should be a fairly high-scoring game, I think. So I think Deshaun Watson is the 15th ranked. He's gonna do better than that. They've got too many offensive weapons for him to not be a starting fantasy quarterback.
I like that. Especially with how Pittsburgh looked last week. And it'll be Monday Night Football. Everything on display for the entire world. So that'll be fun to watch. I picked Russell Wilson, quarterback of the Denver Broncos. He's the 16th ranked QB this week at home versus the Commanders.
Yeah.
So,
I think it's a great one. I thought about Russell Wilson, but he was ranked one spot below Deshaun Watson, so I just went with Deshaun Watson. But yeah, I know Russell Wilson didn't do much last season, and I know you want to see the Broncos do it before you have faith in them, but I'm pretty certain they're going to do it this week against the Commanders.
Well, let's be totally honest. As Mr. Superstition, I picked Russell Wilson so he does badly, and I can watch the Commanders win. So,
well, thank you.
That is how things operate in Dan's world.
In Dan land.
Yeah. We'll see what happens.
I mean, hey, if you are that bad of a jinx and it works, then you can. I'm gonna just have you trade for all of the players on teams I don't like in fantasy football and start everybody. Just start all the Packers and Vikings
pay me for
and
that?
Cowboys.
I like to win fantasy football.
I'll pay your fee. Oh yeah, I'll pay your league fee. And as long as you only start Packers, Vikings, Cowboys.
You've already paid my league fee once, and my team in our money league looks real good. Might be making your money back again.
I just take it out of your winnings.
I know. That's what I'm saying. You might get the money back again.
All right. Running back. It's funny who you picked because I actually had them originally and then changed it. I went with David Montgomery against Seattle. He's the 19th ranked running back. He ran strong against the Chiefs, and the Seahawks just gave up 2 touchdowns to Kyren Williams. So I think David Montgomery is going to have a pretty good day on the ground against Seattle.
So the one thing about the Lions game on Thursday that was a big deal to me and a bunch of other Lions fans is how good Jahmyr Gibbs did. on all of his plays that he played to not continue to get plays, while David Montgomery did good on 50% of his plays and the other 50% didn't look great. So while David Montgomery looked good, I feel like Jahmyr Gibbs is going to have the better week this week for the Lions. So we'll see if you're right, and I would be totally fine if you're right. But I feel like Jahmyr Gibbs will have the bigger game this week. I picked Rachaad White, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers running back. He's the 20th ranked running back, and he's playing the Chicago defense. So I don't want to continue to pile on to the Bears, but until the Bears can show me that they're not what week 1 was, I'm going to pick Rachaad White to rip the Bears apart.
Yeah, like I said, I had picked him originally until I pivoted to David Montgomery. I think Rachaad White didn't do much week 1, will bounce back. And the thing is, in fantasy football, especially if you play daily fantasy, the whole point is just piling on the bad teams. Like, if the Bears' defense is going to be bad, then you pick their opponent's players every single week. And until they prove that they're not bad, I'm keep picking people to play against them.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I love that one. I have a Buccaneer later. My wide receiver, I went with Amari Cooper, 25th ranked wide receiver, number 1 target. Well, I guess technically tied with Elijah Moore for targets in Cleveland, but it goes with my Deshaun Watson pick. I think the Browns. This is going to be a fairly high scoring game. I like the Browns offense. If Deshaun Watson has a good day, Amari Cooper's going to have a good day. So
I hope so, because Amari Cooper is one of my keepers in one of my keeper leagues, and after week 1, I'm like, why did I keep this guy? Holy crap, he's not doing anything. In a game where the Browns were dominating the Browns. Or the Browns were dominating the Bengals. So
I guess he didn't have a good day.
He did not. Yeah. And it took until after halftime for him to start pouring it on. So if Amari Cooper can figure it out throughout an entire game, I will be happy with that pick. After week 1, I'm curious to see if that was an anomaly, because it's just week 1, you know? So I would be happy if that's the case. I picked Michael
Thomas. The Steelers' defense just got trounced by the 49ers. So if the Steelers' defense is that bad, then, yeah, hopefully Amari Cooper can have a brand new
he's that good. You just got to have Deshaun Watson looking at him then. So if that's the case, then we're in a good spot. I took Michael Thomas. I talked about him earlier in this podcast. In that Saints game, he's back. He's the 35th ranked wide receiver, and the Saints are playing the Carolina Panthers, who were not very good last week. So I feel like with all the hype around Michael Thomas and what he did, and even with the hype of just being his first game to see if he's back, I think he's going to pull something out against the Panthers. And as a 35th ranked wide receiver, having him in to do that would be a good spot for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the Saints, they won a close one against the Titans. I think against Carolina, they win much more convincingly. So I like it. Last up, tight end. Like I said, I had a Buccaneer. I went Cade Otton, 29th ranked tight end. The Bears could not. They literally let Luke Musgrave run around free in the open field.
The rookie.
I think Cade Otton. 29th ranked tight end. The guy's he'll get 4 catches for 50 yards, but that's 9 points is more than most tight ends get nowadays. So, yeah.
We talked about this when we recapped the Panthers game. Hayden Hurst, one of the most targeted players for the Panthers. I picked Hayden Hurst, 21st ranked tight end, versus the New Orleans Saints. I feel like there's nothing behind Hayden Hurst as far as wide receivers go. Maybe Mingo, maybe Chark, maybe one of them just finally decides to figure it out this week. But Hayden Hurst was looked at a lot by Bryce Young. So I feel like Hayden Hurst is the guy for Carolina Panthers against New Orleans. So in that game, I've picked Michael Thomas, wide receiver, and Hayden Hurst, tight end, on the other side. So we'll see what happens there.
I like it.
Awesome.
Cool. Well, there you go. That's our week 2 preview.
All right, everybody. Well, that is going to do it for week 1 recap versus the week 2 preview. It went a little longer than we had hoped, but we're trying to just figure out how we do this with a weekly podcast in the week. I know that we finally whittled it down in the preseason to about an hour and 15 minutes. But this I expected this, to be honest, for week 1. So we'll figure out.
Especially early in the season when there's more to talk about because it's new and fresh. By week 12, there's not as much to talk about because it's like, oh, Bryce Young sucked again. Let's move on.
This guy did what he does every week. Yeah, this is kind of what happened last season. We did the same thing. It started long in the beginning and got.
Hey, at least we're under 3 hours. I mean, come on, give us a break.
Yeah, that didn't happen.
Our podcast is exclusively for long haul truckers.
Yeah, exactly. You have to drive to and from work all week. Thursday afternoon and Friday morning and evening. That's how you get this podcast. But thanks everybody for listening. We'll be back next week to cover everything from week 2, like we do, and going into week 3 and see what's going on. But thanks everybody for listening. You guys are awesome. We appreciate you. You can find us on Twitter /X at Coffin Corners. You can find us on TikTok at Coffin Corner Podcast. Had a few pretty funny TikToks over the weekend dealing with everything that happened in week 1. You can find us on YouTube, where we live stream every Wednesday night at youtube.com/@Coffin Corner. That is where you can find our live streams, or you can find us anywhere podcasts are found. You just search Coffin Corner Podcast and you will find us. Just look for that corner pylon logo and you will know that you are in the right place. So thank you everybody for listening. Richie, do you have any final words for the listeners?
I do not.
All right. Well, there he is. The man of few words. Call him Wyatt Earp. Until then, thank you everybody for being here. We'll catch you next week. You have a great week too, and may your teams win and the people you hate fall like in the worst way possible. Until then, we'll catch you guys on the other side.
Bye, everyone.